Bitcoin has now formed a double peak as well as a double bottom. What does that mean next for Bitcoin? In today's video, we're going to be looking for clues across the higher time frames for what is most likely to occur next for Bitcoin. Welcome to Bitcoin Escape Plan. If you enjoy the analysis and want to support my work, you can like the video and share this with someone else who trades crypto. Let's get into the video, guys. So, first and foremost, we do have a lot of action on the 4-hour chart right now. I give updates on that throughout the day as it is relevant over in my membership, the 4-hour break room. You can get more information about that down below. Also, guys, you can join my Discord. The link for that is in the comments. I'm trying to grow that community a little bit more if you want direct access to me. Check that out, link in the description. And then what we have here is the middle band of the downtrend anchor VWAP and the middle band of the elder VWAP. If you have no clue what I just said, go over here to courses. I explain that in more detail. These are the most significant things happening on the chart right now. So this is the elder, this is the one drawn from 2011, this is the downtrend, this is the one drawn from the 126.2K all-time high in October. We have now risen above the downtrend one. As you can see, we're kind of chopping it, having a little bit of trouble staying above it. And then we did have a break earlier, I guess that was yesterday, as high as 81.2K. And then this morning, I believe, where we kind of got rejected is right around 80K, just below 80K, 79.5 it looks like. It's where we got rejected earlier. This is the earliest one, so that was last night. So I was actually trading that range. Guys, that was miserable last night trying to trade that range. The amount of manipulation in the market right now is pretty crazy. I, in general, would be very careful about trading leverage during this time. Subscribers are already well aware of this. I've been saying this for like more than a month now, that this period of time, this 2-3 month stretch is going to be really stressful and not easy. And that's coming from someone who, like, even with my losses this last week, I'm still up, I think, like 480% this year. So yeah. It's gonna get a little bit more complicated, guys. Let's get our daily close. The daily close for yesterday was 78.9K, just below 79K. And you will see we rejected that bottom band, or rather the middle band, of the downtrend anchor VWAP. So we have wicked above it today. Again, this is showing that as today, not yesterday. Interesting discrepancy between the 4-hour and the daily. The highest we've gone, again, is 81.2K. So that doesn't necessarily invalidate our broader structure. Let's go take a look at that on the monthly time frame. So we still are in a situation where we have not closed a higher wick than the May candle. However, we are way, way above the body of the candles over here in April and May, which I do think is important. Subscribers are already well aware of this. What is that? It's a 76.3K Fibonacci pivot. That's the top of the range that we've been stuck in since the end of January, early February. Super important. I talk about it all the time. I do think in general, by the end of August, we will probably trend back in that direction, but nothing makes sense right now, guys. Like the Treasury is now going to buy back $1 trillion, even though we have a $40 trillion deficit and we are currently making less than we spend. I think it's like we made like $5 trillion and we spent like $7.5 trillion. So I don't know exactly where they're getting that money, but to me, that is not bullish for Bitcoin. It might short term be bullish for Bitcoin, but like to me, that is bearish on the country. And part of people's narrative is that they believe that the strategic Bitcoin reserve is going to have tons of passive inflows of Bitcoin. But how does the US do that if the dollar is collapsing, if the value behind the treasuries is collapsing? You know, I don't really see that argument. I think most of the macro speaks to downside pressure, actually, even if we have short-term upside pressure. And I don't know, for me, that's just reality. Like, I don't really see any way to argue with that. There are plenty of people that do. People are leaving crazy comments on my threads about just in general how the bottom is in, how all the old crypto people are wrong about the 4-year cycle in October, you know. I don't buy it, you know. I think until proven otherwise, give me 1 second. I'm gonna temporarily open a short. Guys, if you're watching this video way later, do not take a short just because I said that I'm taking a short. I also am breaking my own rules. I'm in the process of developing a new strategy separate from the 4-hour strategy, because I need something for scalping that is more useful than flying blind. And that's the reality of where we are right now, guys. We are flying blind, where we no longer can use the 2018 fractal. It's no longer useful to us. And what the chart is telling us, it is signaling as if we're going to start building out this structure to the upside now. There's two important things to note, I would say, on the monthly time frame before we work our way down to the weekly time frame. That being, in a bear market year, how many green candles do we typically expect to see? Subscribers are already well aware. It is between 3 and 4 green candles. We have printed 3 already. We're in the process of printing our 4th. This is the only time in Bitcoin history where we have seen 2 green candles in a row during a bear market year. So that is an important divergence to note. And then, yeah, broadly speaking, this is the other important one. This is the monthly SMA itself. The monthly SMA we are typically disconnected from a period of 7 to 13 months. We have been disconnected. We are on month number 9. So we are getting to the time where it is actually more likely that we will retest that than we will not retest that. And like I went over in yesterday's video, that doesn't guarantee that the price will just continue ripping. In 2022, it did not. It corrected after that one more time before then starting to rip. But in 2018, it ripped right past it and then did not return until structural weakness in 2019. Now, because Donald Trump was president during that time, that's still my base case. My base case is going to rip way past it. I see a lot of people talking about how Bitcoin's going to go to 100K faster than 50K. Depending on how quickly you're watching this, you can go vote on my poll over on Threads. I asked specifically that. Is Bitcoin going to 50K or is it going to 100K? Starting to get a decent amount of votes over there. Just out of curiosity from you guys. Also, OGs of the channel know that I used to post a poll every single day. I have not been doing that in a while. Been on vacation from doing Threads as much as I used to, but we have to take that into account. You know, it is a divergence to see 2 sets of green candles in a row. We don't have evidence of that. You know, that is novel. That has not happened before. And then again, the clock is ticking essentially for how long we have until a monthly SMA retest. And it's not like the weekly SMA, guys. The weekly SMA, you guys already know, every time we hit it, we reject it. You know, that's very normal for us to hit it and reject it. So where we closed last week, obviously objectively bullish. You know, there's no way around confirming that as a bullish candle. The technicals the week before spoke to downside pressure. You know, it was pretty obvious on the chart that we were going to see downside pressure based off of a rejection of the bottom band of the downtrend anchor VWAP, a rejection off the 64K Fibonacci pivot, and a lowering of the point of control. That's the point of the chart where the most human beings have pressed buy or sell. That dropped us from 66.9K to 64K for the point of control. So none of that was bullish. None of that was bullish. And then Scott Bessent comes out and says that we're going to double the rate of buybacks for the treasuries, which again, I don't really understand personally how that is bullish when like the government is essentially admitting, hey, nobody is buying our treasuries, so we have to buy them ourselves. Like, sure, that shows some instability in the dollar, which could eventually be strength for Bitcoin. I think people are delusional when, you know, also JP Morgan Chase just released an article or whatever, like a report, I believe this morning, where they're talking about the structural weakness in the AI trade and expecting some downside pressure going into the end of the year. So for me, guys, it's very simple. It doesn't matter what the chart is saying right now. If the stock market has a major correction, Bitcoin will have a major correction, period. You know, the same thing that based off of that treasury news, we pumped like crazy, but people aren't really thinking, you know, they're not really factoring in what that news actually means. And I said it on Threads like a bunch of times yesterday, Bitcoin does not exist in a vacuum. You know, it is still correlated to the other assets and it does still flow in tandem with the other assets. So if we have a major sell-off in stocks or real estate, I hate to break it to you, but Bitcoin is going to sell off as well. So even if it does start to look objectively bullish, it doesn't really mean anything. You know, it's just as likely that we are going to continue to trend higher until such a time where the stock market shows weakness, and then we will violently collapse at that point, regardless of what the technicals are telling us. So all I'm going to say is be very careful as your trading leverage in these last couple of months, which I've been saying for weeks now, guys. The best I can do is help you out in the membership. Again, 4-hour break room, you get information about that down below, because otherwise I'm just making one video a day. I'm not going to make more videos than that. And even on Threads, I'm not posting nearly as much as I used to on Threads, because that was exhausting, guys. When I was getting millions of views on Threads, it's like I was working nonstop, like 6 days a week, and keeping my phone on me at all times to post Threads as well. So it works a lot better for me just to focus on the membership. Plus I can actually build a business. So shout out to you guys. Thank you so much for supporting my efforts with this channel, since I get crazy messages all the time about people who made like 7K off of my analysis this month or that month, and like I made $0 from that. Like I'm just out here trying to help people for free. Anyways, so what we're looking for is the same thing across every time frame. Is that middle band of the downtrend anchor VWAP. It's telling us the same thing on every time frame. On the monthly, we're kind of sitting on it right now. On the weekly, at the moment, we have rejected it. And then same thing on the daily and the 4-hour. We're flirting with it. We're right around that level. So for me, that's going to be one of the most obvious telltale signs of starting to see weakness, is if we get multiple candle closes below that. Now, in terms of this week's candle, now obviously it's Tuesday, still very, very early in the week. We have Jackson Hole on Friday, so that would be pretty important for Fed data, which again could flip the market in either direction very quickly, same as last week. Could very easily start a bid to the upside. I don't understand the logic for that still. Like it just doesn't make sense to me. It eventually will reverse, I think. But the market is not behaving with logic and reasoning right now, so it's quite possible that it is going to just continue to rip higher. So when I'm mostly just making funny titles about like nerdy things, the last couple of titles. But this is what I'm talking about with the two towers, where we're seeing basically like a double peak situation, which would call into question about, this is why everyone says that the bottom is in, because we don't really have an example of this where we get, I mean, that's still a lower high. At the moment, that's still a lower high. So we don't necessarily have confirmation of a sincere break of trend yet. Pretty close, getting very close to a sincere break of trend. But we also have this guy here, this double peak situation, or double bottom situation rather, which is just kind of like, the way I think about it is, now that leverage is really what dominates the markets post December 18th of 2017, is it's just going to get tighter, guys. It's just going to be a much tighter range. So if you've been subscribed to the channel long enough, you already know all of our lows we've been able to call out because of the 2018 chart, because you add a 0 to wherever we were on the 2018 chart, and that's what the price is doing in 2026. That has not worked for the highs, not even close. We're seeing price-based capitulation to the upside, meaning we do not get highs as high typically, other than this guy here. This is our biggest divergence on the chart right now, so we don't have a precedent for it behaving this way. And again, to me, all of the news is bearish. Also, I'm in loss on this short already. Guys, I'm so good at trading scalps. It's awesome. All of the money that I've made has been off of the 4-hour trading strategy, by the way. If you want more information about how I do that, use the video at the very end of this video, the Bitcoin Advanced Trading course. All of the money I've made has been off of slow, boring swing trades, and all of the money that I've lost has been off of chasing small scalps. I'm in the process of developing a new strategy specifically based off of the 15-minute time frame. It just has different probabilities than the 4-hour. The 4-hour is like pretty clear. It's about a 1 to 3% mean reversion whenever we tag one of the Bollinger Bands. The 15-minute, from what I can tell, is closer to a 0.25 to 0.5% swing, which obviously it's not as much, but if you got enough money, that's plenty. So what I'm paying attention to is, again, do we get a higher level than where we got to in May, which is about, I want to say like 82.8K. So if we do get a push higher than that, that is not good for the price being predictable. And that's really where we're at right now, is the price is just not as predictable as it used to be. It's becoming less clear exactly how it's going to behave. I was watching a couple Ben Cowan videos, and he was saying how in the midterm year, it's pretty normal for stocks to have a correction earlier in the year, which we did, and for them to have a correction towards the end of the year, which is broadly what I'm anticipating. Like, I do think that that is going to be the case. Guys, I'm closing this short. God damn it. Tired of scalping. Retired from scalping. I keep dropping things. Hold on. I think the most important thing to pay attention to in a market like this is how quickly everyone flipped from, you know, the 4-year cycle is dead to Bitcoin is going to 39K to now the bottom is in. You know, like everyone continues to flip their narrative over and over and over. I got into an argument with someone about this yesterday. How the trade is super crowded for the October low. You know, everyone's anticipating the October low, and it's like, no, dude. People who know Bitcoin are crowding that trade. Normal people have no idea. They have no idea. You know, we have 3 cohorts of individuals who have bought at the prices below us. We don't even have 3 cohorts of individuals who bought at these prices, guys, where we are exactly right now. We don't even have that. So anyone who's telling you that the trade is super crowded, they're delusional. That's not reflected by the chart. So what is reflected by the chart is there are a ton of people with a cost basis above 86K. There's a ton of them. So what the price is doing now is it's giving an opportunity for those people who are lower conviction because they bought in the end of 2024 based off the election news or in 2025. These are lower conviction people than you or myself. If you're watching Bitcoin Escape Plan, come on. You are a high conviction Bitcoin user. You are not somebody who is just a casual user. These videos are not designed for casual users of Bitcoin, you know. Like, it's really for somebody who is trying to build a trading edge for themselves, as I'm doing it. Again, I make this channel for myself, guys. I make this channel so that I can hold myself accountable to my own analysis, and so that I kind of have like a sounding board where I can get my ideas out without, you know, literally talking. I am talking to myself, but whatever. Some of you are dope and you comment and you help me out, so I'm not talking to myself. But broadly speaking, you know, we have a lot of signals that are pointing towards upside right now. It really looks like we're going to the upside. That's a great story if we don't pay attention to what is telling us the opposite, which again, I would say is the thinness in the anchored volume profile. So again, we got a ton of people from about 62K, 62.5 to about 72K. A lot of people have bought in that range. The most people have bought in that range. And again, that's those 3 cohorts of individuals I was talking about. So that's people who have bought throughout this year. So that's a combination of either, as far as I'm aware, whales have not really stepped in yet. So this is not necessarily crypto native people. This is new BlackRock people. This is new ETF buyers predominantly. And it's people who are confident that the bottom is already in, you know, which is a lot of people. I see way more people talking about how the bottom is in than I do people still talking about Q4 October being a drop. So again, I don't really see. I see people flip-flopping. I do not see people sticking to their guns. I'm sticking to my guns. I think it's October or November that we're going to see structural weakness. But again, that's going to be dependent upon the stock market. If the stock market just continues to rip, then Bitcoin's just going to continue to rip. You know, there's no reason for it to have a major pullback unless stocks have a major pullback. Yeah, I wish it was more complicated than that, but it's not. The second cohort of individuals is the ETF buyers. So these people had to experience a lot of chop. This is the other thing, guys. These people, if you believe the bottom is in, then those people never experience market pain. That's not how Bitcoin works, you know? Unless you buy the absolute bottom, you're gonna experience pain. So I suppose that the argument is that these newer crypto holders who are buying in an ETF, who know nothing about the asset other than number go up, those people are gonna never be in loss, you know? I don't buy it personally. The only other cohort of individuals who bought at this level are the 2021 top buyers. That's it. And those people are either gone or they're in their second or third cycle and they have bought this entire time, you know? So those are the strongest conviction individuals, the ones who stuck around. These people are having to make a decision now between, oh, okay, well, I'm back in profit. Do I add more? Do I trim, you know? And then the people who are above this level, again, the closer that we get to 83 to 86K, the more attractive it is for all of those people to decide, actually, you know what, I don't believe in this Bitcoin thing. I'm going to shift over to NVIDIA or the OpenAI IPO or whatever, you know. Like, you, again, this is people who bought based on the election result and bought in a post-halving year, the worst time to buy Bitcoin. You need those people to grow a spine and buy more instead of deciding to sell for a lower haircut. You got to remember, most of this time, guys, they've been sitting in, let's see, in more than 45% loss. That's where they've been sitting, between 30 and 50% loss. And that's just the bottom of that. That's just the bottom of that. So the people who are from up here are in way more significant loss. So what you're asking is for the second largest cohort of individuals on the chart to not act in their own best interests as the price rises higher. And again, I say this all the time, guys. Look how thin it is between 72K and 86K. What that means is that nobody cares. Nobody cares. There's no one who is defending these levels. This is just being moved by institutional money and leverage, period. Nobody cares. Nobody cares. Nobody's stepping in and buying a ton of Bitcoin. Nobody's selling their house and buying Bitcoin with it. You know, this is not indicative for me of, okay, now we're just going to launch higher. I think it's the same as May, where we got to those same levels and we got rejected because there's not enough people at these levels who care. We are starting to see people step up between about 75 and 77. But on the way up, we liquidated about $1 to $4 billion worth of shorts. And guys, I think that you're looking at the longs that are going to get liquidated in that range. I think that whenever this snaps in the opposite direction, which again, it could be months, it could be a while, I think those people are going to be the predominant ones that end up getting like liquidated in that initial drop. So I am bearish still. I do have a bias towards the downside. And it's just a matter of letting it play out. I mean, you guys know, if you've been subscribed to me long enough, there's been plenty of times this year where I was wrong and I still made money. You know, where I was just early on a trade and I still made money. I am more hesitant to do that this time. Like, I am hesitant to just enter a turbo short and just try and wait it out. I think that's what Paul's still doing, but I am hesitant to do that at this stage of the market because it is behaving irrationally. Like, it is, I think, just as likely that we continue to snap higher as it is that some type of structural weakness in the stock market really starts to collapse us lower. You know, like, I don't really see enough evidence for either case. I mean, the bear case to me makes more sense. The bear case to me makes a lot more sense because every single news story that I have seen that is crypto related for the last month and a half has been negative. Everything, you know. So to me, I don't understand, other than leverage and institutional money, I don't understand where this massive green candle came from. And what is very normal is when we get a move like that, we typically will give a lot of it back. So broadly, and again, this is, you know, subscribers are already well aware of this. Typically, when we break the weekly SMA, this is the second longest time period we spent disconnected from it. Typically, when we break the weekly SMA, we got about 1 to 3 weeks above it before it starts to correct back to it. Now, there's nothing preventing it from continuing to trend higher after that, but it is very rare where we, in a bear market year, break above it and then just stay above it indefinitely. So that, combined with the fact that we don't have any instances where we break the upper Bollinger Band on the weekly time frame, for me, makes it unlikely that we are going to get there. That would be 84.3K. And similar, I went over this in a recent video, similar to 2022 and 2018, we did have a period of time later in the year where it started to trend up before inevitably coming back down. So again, at the moment, I'm not in a trade because I closed that terrible short trade that I was in earlier in this video. Guys, I think I'm going to be more strict with myself on entries the next couple weeks because, like I said earlier, I've given up plenty of money on these scalps, and all of the money that I've made, it's been from boring trades where I literally wasn't looking at the chart. I made my chart analysis, and then I put my money in, and then I went to sleep, you know? for weeks. I just wasn't really paying attention to it other than making these videos. Like, I'm not sitting there with my phone open all day long looking at the Bitcoin chart. You kind of have to do that now, though. You can't walk away from a trade right now. Like, I was talking to a client the other day about how they were like, oh, well, you say you're in these trades for like 3 weeks, so I haven't looked at it. I'm like, yeah, that's not what I said. I might be in a trade for 3 weeks. It doesn't mean that I literally don't look at it the entire time. Like, that's crazy. That is a guaranteed way for you to lose money, is if you have that type of mentality, especially when something is changing every day in the news. Like, it is not the time, guys, to walk away from the chart if you have money invested, especially with leverage. Just be smart. I see my demographics. You're all of age. I don't have any children that watch this channel. You're an adult. Act like it. Practice good risk management. So what are we looking for the lower term targets? I don't think I've set a single level today, guys. I'm just rambling. I'm mostly going off of that middle band of the downtrend anchor VWAP. So on the daily time frame, it's about 79.4. Again, slightly different on every time frame. If you want to draw that for yourself, go over here underneath forecasting, go to volume-based anchored VWAP, drop it on a candle of your choosing. I would highly recommend the 126 all-time high. And if you want to draw the elder VWAP, that's the 2011 candles. The bottom in 2011 is the most useful one for that. So for me, I'm going to be paying attention to what does it continue to do on the 4 hour and the daily time frame. Does it continue to close below it, which is currently the case? We're getting wicks above it and bodies of candles below it. So that is not indicative that it's going to magically rise higher. It's indicative that it's having a little bit of trouble at that level, and it eventually will get rejected in the opposite direction, the same as it did over here. Now, we've had a stronger interaction with it here, but again, we didn't have the Treasury buying back a ton of their own, or rather the Fed buying back a ton of their own treasuries at that time. I'm sure we would have pumped past 86K at that time, and we would have a very different market structure now. It would be more clearly bearish now if that were the case, but it's not the case. So for me, really what I'm looking for is, do I believe that that meteoric rise, that 3-day rise, is going to hold forever? No, I don't. I think we will start to trend back. Some of the levels that I've heard from other people are specifically 72K-ish, roughly, that they're anticipating we could drop as low as there before attempting another bounce higher. Not sure how I feel about that. I will be trying to catch that short when it presents itself. Hopefully it presents itself in a clear way on the 4 hour time frame. But yeah, for the most part, we still don't have daily Fibonacci pivot points until the end of the month. We do have our new 4 hour ones. Our 4 hour ones are 79.7K, 73.3K, and about 83.7K. I don't believe at the moment that we're going to get 83.7K. It is possible, again. Oh my God, I'm yawning so much. This is what happens when you trade until 2 o'clock in the morning, guys. The only argument I can think of is, again, if something structurally changes during the Jackson Hole meeting on Friday, that could be another pump going into the weekend. But I don't know, broadly speaking, for me, I just think it's more likely that we start to trend down if we're getting rejected off of that band on the higher time frames as well as the lower time frames. The lower time frames, we can spend more time chopping around it. Higher time frames, we don't really get that many instances of rejecting it. We get a couple times rejecting it, and then it's pretty clear, okay, cool, we got to go in the opposite direction until we hit something else, which for me is 76.3K. That's going to be the most important one, separate from these fib pivots, which again, 73.3. I would think 75-ish is probably going to be important, and then 73.8K, you guys already know, my beloved 73.8K. Do think that's important. 73.3 actually may be more important. We spent a long time around that in the shorter time frames, maybe 2-3 weeks ago. And then this 79.7K fib pivot at the moment is looking like resistance, not support. So if we can't get above 79.7K, that makes an 80K retest impossible. Although I will say, I'm looking at the 15-minute chart right now on my phone, and it does look like we want to make another move towards 80K, which I'm going to stay away from because I've lost enough money with scalps in the last couple of days. But yeah, broadly speaking, we would expect a 4 hour SMA retest at some point. We were very strong off of that reaction. I'll be talking about that in the membership as it becomes prevalent. But for me, I think in the short term, it's more likely that we go towards 80 or 83K than it is for us to just start collapsing. Yeah, nothing really much else to say, guys. Everything else you need is going to be on the website, bitcoinescapeplan.com. If you want to read my book, you can do so for free when you put in your email. You can get just like my broader thoughts about what I think are the most important narratives rather than chasing news stories. And interestingly enough, chapter 1, fiat inflation, the Treasury argument is a solid argument for that, where as the dollar weakens, risk on assets will strengthen. I just don't think that it's as simple as that. Like, I think that is a broader macroeconomic trend, not the short term will not reflect that. If we see weakness in the stock market, we see weakness in the crypto market, period. It's too small, guys. We're talking about a market that is like less than $4 trillion still. So too small, too easy to get bullied, still thin on the anchored volume profile. So to me, not enough humans care about these levels. So it's just as easy for us to rip right back through them as it is for us to defend them. Probably easier, quite frankly, for us to rip back through them than to defend them. So broadly speaking, that's what I'm looking at. I don't think it's impossible for us to retest 80K or 83K. Why am I yawning so much? Jesus Christ. I think all that it does really is it loads up the trade for people who are going long now and makes them look very silly in a couple weeks when we start to see structural weakness. That $1 trillion buyback, I believe, starts on September 9th. The Clarity Act is supposed to be, the Senate is going to meet and talk about it on the 15th. I believe that is the meeting to decide whether or not they have enough support for a vote, so it's not the vote itself. I don't need to ramble about it here, but I do still think personally that the stablecoins is the most important narrative. I get into arguments all the time about digital credit with literally one person on my threads, and the institutional buyers is a pretty heavy bias. Like the cold card hacks, like the $130 million worth of Bitcoin that was stolen from hardcore Bitcoiners. It's like the ETF inflows were like 600 to 800 million that week. You know what I mean? So it's not Bitcoiners that are running the cycle, and if you think that's the case, you're delusional. The best that you can do is learn how to trade leverage on it, or just continue to DCA and shut your mouth. Like, that's it. You don't need to complicate it. But for everyone who says that the bottom is in or that we're about to go to 100K, I don't think that either of those people are correct. The only event that could bring us to 100K is there is possibility that if there's major quantitative easing ahead of a stock market collapse, then yes, technically Bitcoin can continue to run prior to that, but they probably won't do the quantitative easing en masse until there is structural weakness in the stock market. So yeah, for me, I am still bearish. I am not in a trade. I will let you know if that changes by tomorrow morning, and the membership will know before you do. I'm so sorry. Go subscribe. Everything else you need about the membership is down in the description down below. You start with a trial. It's a little bit cheaper for your first 3 months. And yeah, bitcoinescapeplan.com. I need some food. Oh my God. I'll talk to you tomorrow.